He ignored me on every Father's Day for 20 straight years. I didn't get a call. I didn't get a card. I didn't even get his silence. I got his absence. But 1 week after I won $72 million, my son remembered I existed. Suddenly, he was all smiles and, "Hey, Dad," like we'd just spoken last week. He wanted to throw a Father's Day barbecue, said it was long overdue, said he missed me. And just like that, the man who left me to grow old alone wanted to celebrate fatherhood. If you've ever been loved only when you were useful, stick around. And if someone ever forgot you until you had something they wanted, this story is for you. Before I go on, hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments how many Father's Days you spent hoping for a phone call that never came. Because this story isn't about winning the lottery, it's about what happens when people put a price tag on love and assume you're still for sale. I told him I'd be there. I even said I had a special gift to bring. He was thrilled. So was his mother. They thought they were finally getting what they'd been waiting for. But what I'm bringing to their backyard isn't wrapped in a box. It's wrapped in truth. This year, I'm not showing up to be celebrated. I'm showing up to deliver a message. They won't forget. After 2 decades of silence, I finally have something to say. And this time, they'll have no choice but to listen. My name is Jonathan Pierce. I wasn't always a millionaire. I wasn't always alone, either. There was a time when I had a wife, a son, and a house that smelled like Sunday dinners and fresh laundry. That was before everything collapsed. Vanessa, my ex-wife, was a woman who loved appearances more than substance. She liked shiny things, expensive things, and when I couldn't give her those anymore, she decided I no longer fit the picture. She left me at 45, took the house, the car, and the son we raised together. Her lawyer was ruthless. Mine was exhausted. I walked away with an old Honda, a box of clothes, and a quiet apartment in the cheapest corner of Riverbend, Oregon. Our son, Ethan, was 17 when the divorce hit, old enough to choose, and he chose her new boyfriend, a corporate guy with a lake house, a sports car, and the kind of smile that came with bonus checks. "Dad, maybe if you'd worked harder," Ethan told me once, "we wouldn't be in this mess." I didn't fight back, didn't argue. How do you explain to your child that doing your best wasn't enough to keep your family intact after they left? I still tried birthdays, graduations. I sent cards, gifts, notes all returned unopened. I called and left messages no one ever returned. Each year, Father's Day came and went like a ghost. I would sit by the window with a mug of lukewarm coffee, telling myself maybe next year, but next year never came. 3 years after the divorce, I had heart surgery, alone. No flowers, no visitors, just the beep of machines and a nurse named Kelly who held my hand before they put me under. That was the lowest point. But even rock bottom has a floor. I was still an accountant back then, underpaid, overlooked, but I had one thing left, my mind. And I started using it while others binge-watched TV or drowned in bitterness. I read books on real estate, finance, and market patterns. I clipped foreclosure listings from the Riverbend Tribune. I drove to properties no one wanted and saw potential where others saw failure. I bought my first duplex with every penny I had. Nights were spent scraping old paint, fixing plumbing, and sanding floors. It was hard, lonely, but it was mine. 6 months later, I had tenants. A year after that, I bought another house, then another. While Ethan posted selfies from ski resorts and Vanessa flaunted fake charity work, I built an empire from drywall and discipline. And through it all, I stayed silent. I didn't show off, didn't call them, didn't rub my slow success in their faces. I just worked and waited. Because one thing life taught me is that time always tells the morning it happened. Riverbend was unusually quiet. Sunlight spilled through my kitchen window like gold dust, and I was sipping black coffee, watching the light shift across the hardwood floors I'd refinished with my own 2 hands 15 years ago. There was a peace in that stillness, the kind of peace only people who've been forgotten truly understand. I had made a life inside the silence. I had made it mine. Then the phone rang. The screen showed a number I didn't recognize. But something in me, some dull, aching instinct told me to answer. Dad? That word hadn't touched my ears in 2 decades. Not since he stood in a doorway at 17 and told me I was the reason his mother left. My voice stayed even. Yes, it's me, Ethan. I closed my eyes. The coffee in my hand suddenly felt cold. I know it's been a long time, he said quickly. And I know we haven't exactly been close. That's one way to put it, I said. Not angry, just honest. There was a small laugh on the other end. Nervous, uncertain. The same laugh he used to make when caught stealing cookies as a kid. Look, I've been thinking Father's Day is coming up. Vanessa and I are hosting this big barbecue. We'd really love for you to come. There it was, wrapped in kindness, stuffed with nostalgia, tied up with a bow that smelled like manipulation. I didn't answer immediately. We've missed you, he added. A pause. Have you? I said quietly. Of course, he lied. I stood, walked over to the sink, and stared out at the backyard. There was an old tire swing still hanging from the maple tree. It hadn't moved in years, just like our relationship. You know, I said, keeping my tone flat. I used to sit by that same phone every year on Father's Day, just hoping you'd call. Silence. Yeah, he said at last. I wasn't great back then. I was a kid. I didn't understand. But you understand now. I asked. I'm trying, he said. Isn't that something? I wanted to laugh, not because it was funny, but because it was familiar. This wasn't a son reaching for his father. This was a man chasing money with a smile. I've heard some good news about you, he said. Big lottery win. Huh. There it was. Slipped in like small talk. Like it wasn't the only reason he'd dialed my number. Must be nice, he added. 72 million, I said plainly. State lottery. Powerball. 1 ticket? Wow, he whistled. That's incredible. I mean, good for you, Dad. Really, you deserve it. His voice shifted just enough for me to catch it. A change in tone, a spark of hunger. He was calculating now, figuring out what to say next. How to keep the line open without sounding too obvious. Father's Day, he repeated. It'll be just family. You, me, Mom. Kids running around. Food. Music. Catching up. We'll fire up the grill. Talk about the past. You know, like old times. There were no old times to return to. I'd like that, I said, and I meant it, but not for the reason he thought. I'll bring something special, I added. A surprise. Oh, he laughed. Now I'm curious. You're not bringing a check, are you? I smiled at the absurdity of his transparency. You'll see, I said. We hung up, and I stood there in my kitchen. As the morning sun crept higher, casting light on every surface I'd repaired with my own 2 hands. In the silence that followed, I made a quiet decision. If he wanted to play the role of loving son, then I would play the role of forgiving father. Let the scene begin. But this time, I wasn't coming to be celebrated. I was coming to show them what Father's Day really looks like. For the fathers who were never called, 3 days after that phone call, I dialed his number again. I had rehearsed what I would say, every pause, every inflection, because this wasn't just a call, it was a test. And I already knew the answer, but I needed to hear it from him. He picked up on the second ring. Dad, hey, everything okay? I've been thinking, I said, about your invitation. Father's Day. Yeah. His tone perked up like a dog waiting for a treat. I need to be honest with you. Ethan, I said slowly, I might not be able to come. What? Why? I've run into a bit of a situation. I let the words hang in the air like fog. What kind of situation? Financial, I said. I made a few bad calls with the money. Tried to double it through crypto trading. Lost almost all of it. Dead silence. Wait, what? He said, his voice suddenly thinner. I didn't tell the press. I didn't want the story out. But between the crash and some bad investments, there's not much left. Barely enough to get by. I could almost hear him doing the math, subtracting 72 million in his head. The silence stretched, then cracked. Wow, that's really rough. Dad, I'm sorry to hear that. No concern? No offer to help? No, are you okay? Just the empty tone of a man who just watched his golden goose fall dead in the yard. "Yeah," I said. "It's been a hell of a few weeks." "Well," he cleared his throat. I mean, maybe it's best if we skip this year's barbecue. You probably need space, time, to sort things out. Of course, no money, no reason to celebrate. I understand," I said calmly. "We'll catch up another time," he added quickly. "Once things are better, right? Take care of yourself," he said. And just like that, the line went dead. "No, we love you. No, we're here for you. No, you're still our father." I stood in my kitchen, staring at the silent phone in my hand. My reflection stared back from the microwave door, older, wiser, but still human enough to feel that small sting of betrayal, even when it wasn't surprising. I'd suspected the truth, but now I had confirmation. He didn't want to reconnect. He didn't want to rebuild our relationship. He wanted the money, and now that it was gone, so was I. Vanessa didn't call, didn't message, didn't follow up with "How are you really doing?" The woman who once said I was too dull to succeed now couldn't be bothered to feign interest. Once she thought I had nothing left. It wasn't anger I felt. It wasn't even sadness. It was clarity. For 20 years, I had blamed myself. Maybe I wasn't a good enough father. Maybe I didn't try hard enough. Maybe I hadn't fought loud enough, long enough, strong enough. But that call told me something different. It told me that I had been enough. They just never wanted what I had to give. That was the moment something shifted inside me. The plan I'd started as a quiet defense became something sharper. Not revenge, never that. But truth, sharp, simple, unforgiving. This Father's Day, I wouldn't be forgotten. They would remember me. Not for the money I had, but for the man they underestimated. 2 days after Ethan vanished again, my phone rang. But this time, the voice wasn't polished, rehearsed, or dripping with hidden agendas. It was clear, calm, human. "Mr. Pierce?" A pause. Then, "It's Claire. Claire Whitman?" The name slid across my memory like a breeze through an old room. Claire, the barefoot girl who lived 2 doors down when Ethan was little. Big eyes, smarter than most adults, always carrying around a notebook and a pencil stub. I used to help her with math while her mom was in and out of the hospital. Now her voice had the edge of a woman who had lived, lost, and grown sharper because of it. "I hope this isn't a bad time," she said. "I saw your name in the paper. The lottery win." I braced myself. Another call, another smile, another favor. But what followed stopped me. I just wanted to say, "Congratulations. You were one of the kind ones. You still deserve good things." I stayed silent a moment, because kind words are the hardest to believe. When you've gone so long without hearing them. "Thank you," I said. We spoke like old neighbors catching up. About Riverbend, about how the trees on the corner had finally been cut down. How her mother passed quietly in a hospice 2 years ago. "I work for the Tribune now," she said. "Local beat reporter. Mostly community pieces, but I dip into investigation when I can." Something in her tone shifted. "Can I ask you something? Off the record, of course. This story about your son inviting you back after 20 years. It didn't happen before the lottery win, did it?" "No," I said. She paused. "Did he ever call before that?" "Not once. Not once," I confirmed. "I thought so," she said, exhaling. "Why do you ask?" "Because something about the timeline doesn't sit right with me. And because there's something I need to tell you." She hesitated. "You remember my dad? Big guy, oil on his hands, always fixing something. That's him. He invested in a startup 6 years ago, poured everything he had into it. Retirement, house equity, everything. The founder promised a 5x return within 18 months, said it was the future of intelligent systems. I already knew what was coming. The company was called Prismatech. The founder's name was Ethan Pierce. My chest didn't tighten, it locked. I didn't realize until I saw the name in the headline last week. Local lottery winner's estranged son reaches out for Father's Day. Oh, I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling, as if the truth could be less painful if I looked away from it. Claire continued, her voice quieter now. My dad kept believing it would bounce back, kept making excuses for the delays. But Ethan disappeared, changed numbers, shut down the website, left nothing but promises and broken families. I closed my eyes. He died 2 years ago, she added. Heart failure. They said, but honestly, I think the real cause was hope. That sentence cracked something in me. I'm sorry, I whispered. I'm not telling you this to get even, she said. I'm telling you because I want to help and because I think maybe you and I are standing in the same kind of silence. She was right. We were both children of men who were failed by the same son. Claire, I said, steady now. You don't owe me anything. I disagree, she said. You gave me stability when mine was falling apart. Helped me believe the world still had good people in it. Let me return the favor. A beat of silence passed. I've already started digging, she said. Your ex-wife has a GoFundMe campaign for stage 3 ovarian cancer, but there's no medical record in Riverbend or Portland showing she's in treatment. She posted photos from a chemo center, but they were lifted from a stock image database. Of course she did. And Ethan? I asked. Still playing the game. There are whispers of a new venture, unregistered. Private investors only, no product, no timeline, just cutting-edge AI and massive upside. She paused again. I've contacted 3 families who lost money in the last 2 years. One mortgaged their home. Another borrowed against college savings. They're all ready to talk. I felt my jaw tighten. Not with rage, with purpose. What do you need from me? I asked. Just your story, she said. And your trust? You have both. Her voice steadied. Then we're going to show them what real truth looks like. And for the first time in 20 years, I felt something rise in my chest that had almost died completely. Claire didn't waste time. Within 48 hours, she had uncovered more about Vanessa Pierce than her neighbors had seen in 20 years. The GoFundMe campaign had raised over $70,000. It was full of heartbreaking updates. Day 12 of chemo. Feeling weak, but fighting? Day 21. Insurance denied another treatment. Please share. There were selfies of her in scarves, sitting in a recliner with an IV pole beside her. But Claire's trained eyes didn't miss the truth. The photos weren't original. They were lifted from a cancer support forum, images of real women fighting real battles. Vanessa had cropped them, filtered them, and passed them off as her own. But that wasn't all. There were no hospital admissions under her name. No oncology records. Not even a prescription for anti-nausea medication. She hadn't seen a single doctor. Claire cross-checked dates of her so-called treatments with her social media activity. On the same day she claimed to be vomiting after radiation, she was tagged at a wine tasting event in downtown Portland. Classic grift? Claire muttered. She's not just lying, she's monetizing sympathy. While Claire dismantled the mother, I turned to the son. I made calls, lots of them, to every investor Ethan had pitched to in the past 10 years. Some hung up, some swore, but most listened. They remembered the big promises, the cutting-edge algorithms, the AI breakthroughs, the limited-time founder access. They remembered the glossy brochures, the fake prototypes, the LLCs that vanished overnight, and most of all, they remembered losing their money. I put in $25. Narrowning, said one retired teacher from Boise. Gone in 3 months, he never answered a single email after that. He told me we'd be on the ground floor of the next Amazon. Said another, I had to refinance my house because of him. I collected every story. Claire verified each claim, cross-checked it with bank statements, emails, and LinkedIn timelines. We built a timeline year by year of Ethan's entire fraudulent portfolio. By the end of the week, we had a war chest of truth, 75 pages of documentation, screenshots, bank records, donor lists, forum posts, video clips, even a secretly recorded Zoom pitch where Ethan promised a 700% return to an elderly investor. Claire knew the right people. She handed the file to a contact at the state attorney's office. Another copy went to a journalist at the Oregon Chronicle. A third landed in the inbox of a local YouTuber known for exposing scams. But that wasn't enough. We wanted them to feel it. Not behind closed doors, not with quiet shame, but publicly, on stage. We chose Father's Day, The same day Ethan had invited me to stand in front of his new life and pretend nothing happened. Claire coordinated everything. At exactly 3:00 p.m., just as the barbecue would be reaching its peak, the lawsuits would be delivered. Multiple ones. From different victims, filed in 3 counties. At 3:05, Claire's article would go live. A full expose. Headline: From Father's Day to Fraud, How a Riverbend Son Built a Fortune on Lies. At 3:10, the GoFundMe account would be flagged and frozen. Every donor notified. Every lie exposed. And at 3:15, Claire herself would arrive. Not as a friend, but as a witness. She would hand Vanessa a printed copy of her medical file, blank, empty, undeniable. And Ethan, he'd be handed a folder. Inside, the truth. All of it. No yelling, no threats, just cold, hard, organized consequence. We're not coming for revenge, Claire told me as we loaded the final documents into envelopes. We're coming for justice, and we're right on time. That night, as I sat alone in my living room, I looked at the watch I'd worn for 30 years. It ticked steadily, calm, certain. For 2 decades, time had been the enemy, a reminder of everything lost. But now time was the weapon, and Father's Day would be the hour of truth. The invitation had said family barbecue, but the air felt anything but warm as I pulled into the driveway. String lights hung from the porch. Laughter drifted from inside. Burgers sizzled. Fragrance of corn and coleslaw mixed with the faint scent of perfume, Vanessa's perfume. She was standing near the grill, flipping patties with a practiced smile. Inside, Ethan greeted guests like a host on a stage. I saw the cameras. Some guests live streaming. A banner said, Father's Day with Dad above the buffet table. He wore that same corporate smile. His eyes flicked to the door as I walked in. Jonathan Pierce, former accountant turned millionaire. I carried a brown leather portfolio. From the outside, it looked like the gift I promised. From the inside, it contained everything they'd never wanted me to remember. I was silent as I stepped in. Their eyes widened, excitement flickered when they recognized me. This is Dad, they whispered to others. Vanessa glided forward, pulled me into a hug. Ethan shook my hand, looking relieved to finally see me sit down. They told me stories. Old family trips, childhood mishaps, memories they said they'd missed. I nodded and smiled. But my gaze drifted to the portfolio bag on the table. Inside waited evidence. At exactly 3:00 p.m., Claire and a woman in a gray suit arrived at the edge of the yard. The woman a process server. Guests glanced, puzzled. Cameras captured everything. At that moment, Ethan approached, glass of iced tea in hand. Dad? This is kind of wonderful, right? We're eating, laughing, finally together. I tilted my head. Yeah, I said softly. Except, where's the gift you promised? His laughter froze. He looked behind him, clear panic. That's when Claire stepped forward, hand extended, phone tucked in. Hello, Vanessa. May I? No invitation, no warning. She handed Vanessa a thick envelope. Paper rustled. Vanessa's face whitened. Minutes later, the process server walked over, handed Ethan a stack of documents. He unfolded one. His name, capital letters, case number, then another, and another. Live stream alert chirped. A guest gasped. One began filming with a steady hand. Vanessa stood stunned. Dad, she's faking cancer. Someone off camera asked. Vanessa reached for her phone, tried to delete posts on her fundraising page. But comments flooded in. Screenshots appeared on other phones. A guest shouted, That's her doctor's note. It's blank. Ethan's face crumpled. The host's mask cracked. He flipped through the claims. Investor lawsuits. Fraud allegations. Debt demands? His shoulders sagged. A waiter offered water. He didn't take it. Claire watched. Expression resolute. Then she spoke into her phone camera. This is part of a full expose from the Riverbend Tribune. All evidence has been submitted to the courts. Vanessa Pierce is being investigated for fraudulent charity claims. Ethan Pierce faces multiple civil suits for investment fraud. Whispers turned into silence. The livestream went viral in real time. Neighbors gathered at the fence. A man across the street hurried over with documents printed off his tablet. Children stopped playing. A drone hovered low over the backyard. I stood, opened my portfolio, retrieved a single paper, a printout of my messages. Christmas cards returned unread, voicemail transcripts, birthday texts unanswered. I laid it on the table. Vanessa shook. Ethan grabbed it, flipping through with shaking hands. Each line echoed 2 decades of silence. "What is this?" He choked. "This is what 20 years of Father's Day felt like," I said. No yelling, no theatrics. Just the moment truth collapsed their performance. Vanessa's eyes brimmed. Guilt, panic, disbelief. "You said you had cancer," a guest whispered. "How could you lie to all of us?" Ethan's voice cracked. I didn't know what else to do." "You lied to your father," I said. "You lied to your community. You lied to grieving families." He couldn't answer. Claire closed her phone and approached. "Your time to speak is over, Ethan. We've contacted the victims, the attorneys, the state. This is not over." A gavel symbol flashed on a guest's live stream overlay. Justice served. The invincible facade had shattered. By 3:50 p.m., the barbecue had ended. People spoke in whispers. Some angrily packed up and left. Guests recorded statements. Lawyers took notes. Lights flashed from reporters who'd arrived unnoticed. I slipped away, left my chair, didn't look back. On the drive home, I thought about the silence that now felt necessary, not between me and my past, but between me and those who never valued me. Claire's article went live minutes later. Headline: From celebrated Father's Day to public trial. How the millionaire dad exposed 2 decades of lies. Within hours, donations to Vanessa's campaign were being refunded. Her social media pages were closed or labeled fraud. Investor news sites had beaten the story across state lines. And Ethan, assets frozen. Lawsuits served. Public shame sealed. Later that night, Claire texted me, "Well done. You were bigger than this. Bigger than their performance." And I understood how true that was. They had staged a celebration. I staged justice. This was Father's Day, but not the one they'd imagined. The backyard had never been so quiet. The remnants of the Father's Day barbecue were gone, along with the last traces of false affection. Where laughter once echoed, only silence remained. But for Jonathan, that silence wasn't empty. It was peaceful. After 2 decades of carrying the weight of rejection, the air finally felt lighter. The fallout from the Father's Day confrontation had been immediate and far-reaching. Within 72 hours, Ethan was served formal indictments for fraud, wire transfers under false pretenses, and breach of fiduciary duty. Vanessa, on the other hand, faced public outrage and pending legal action for her cancer donation scam, which, after Claire's exposé, drew national attention. Frozen bank accounts, civil suits, a firestorm of social media condemnation. They hadn't just lost money or status, they'd lost credibility. And in the digital age, there was no erasing that stain. Claire's article, "The Price of a Father's Silence," went viral within days, shared by parenting groups, discussed in churches, and cited in forums about emotional healing. It touched a nerve across generations. The story wasn't just about betrayal. It was about the quiet endurance of a good man who'd refused to let bitterness define him. Her editor called it a modern-day parable. Others simply called it a family story that demanded to be heard. But for Jonathan, the fame meant little. He didn't care for attention. He didn't celebrate the downfall of his son or ex-wife. What he felt instead was release. For the first time in years, he could breathe without resentment clouding every thought. He returned to his simple house with its creaky floors and sunlit kitchen. The same place that once echoed with loneliness now felt like sanctuary. He'd begun praying again, not to ask for justice, but to give thanks for strength, for clarity, for the mercy of time. "Lord," he whispered one morning, looking out at the garden, "I don't know why this all took 20 years. But thank you for never letting go of me." It was his 3rd time in a week praying out loud. Each time, the words came easier. Each time, he felt the ache in his chest loosen. Just a little more. Later that week, Claire visited with a copy of her article in print. They sat on his porch, sipping coffee and watching birds land on the fence. "You changed more lives than you know," she said. Jonathan smiled. "I didn't change anything. I just stopped waiting." "No," she replied. "You taught us what real forgiveness looks like." She handed him the article. On the back page was a letter from a reader. "Reading your story reminded me to call my father after 10 years. Thank you for helping me realize I still had time." Well, that line stuck with Jonathan. It reminded him that even pain, when shared, could be redemptive. He didn't feel like a hero. He still had moments when memories returned like echoes Nicholas's first steps, birthday cakes, the bike rides, and then the void. But those memories didn't sting like they used to. They had become gentle reminders of what love had once been, and what it could become again, if given the chance. The following Sunday, he walked into a community center near his neighborhood and signed up as a volunteer math tutor. The woman behind the desk, Olivia, smiled and said, "We've been needing someone like you." He taught twice a week, helping teenagers pass their exams, guiding single moms, trying to finish their GEDs, and mentoring seniors who wanted to balance their budgets without fear. He wasn't just giving numbers, he was giving dignity. It was there, in that modest room with whiteboards and worn-out chairs, that Jonathan found purpose again. "God's timing is different than ours," he said once, helping a young man solve an equation. "Sometimes he delays the answer because he's teaching you how to listen first." It was the second time that week he'd spoken about God out loud. Claire's book deal came through 6 months later. She titled it A Father's Silence, One Man's Stand for Dignity. On the dedication page, it read, "For Jonathan Walker, the kind of father whose quiet saved more lives than loudness ever could." At the launch event, someone asked him to sign a copy. He hesitated, then wrote, "Your silence doesn't make you weak. Your truth does." People called it the family story of the year. The book was translated into 4 languages. Schools used it to teach ethical journalism. Pastors quoted it in sermons about grace and consequence. Readers saw themselves in Jonathan abandoned, dismissed, but still standing. One evening, as the fall leaves blanketed the streets of Daltonville, Jonathan got a letter in the mail. The return address was a correctional facility. It was from Ethan. The envelope contained a single page. No manipulation this time. Just a simple acknowledgement of failure and a line that read, "I see you now, Dad." "I really see you?" Jonathan read it twice. He didn't cry. He didn't smile. He folded it gently and placed it in the drawer with his prayer journal. That night, he whispered his third prayer of gratitude to God, not for revenge, but for closure, for the chance to end a chapter and begin a new one. Sometimes, the deepest healing comes not from vindication, but from rising beyond it. Jonathan's life had become a family story he never planned to tell, but one that others now leaned on in their darkest moments. He had lived through betrayal, not with bitterness, but with dignity. He had discovered that when everything falls away, what remains is character and faith. And perhaps, most importantly, he'd learned that sometimes being forgotten is what teaches you how to live again. Lessons from my own life. Your worth isn't measured by who remembers you, it's defined by what you remember about yourself. Justice may come late, but dignity is always yours to keep. Even broken family stories can become blueprints for healing. Forgiveness isn't about erasing the past. It's about choosing a different future. If my journey moves you, if you've ever felt overlooked, underestimated, or yous don't carry that pain in silence, share this family story with someone who needs hope. Pray, even if the words feel unfamiliar. Sometimes all you need is to whisper, "God, help me see again." Comment below, what lesson from Jonathan's story spoke to you most? Because maybe, just maybe, the next chapter of your life is the one that finally brings peace.